When we hear about cults, we think about strange rituals, killings, and all the crazy ideas people get pulled into. But what do we think we know about cults? How do we get in and out of cults? What are some reasons for us developing fears of cults that modern culture has taught us? First on the agenda today, I'm going to tell you about cults and give you a brief history of how we got to know what we know about them. Next, I'll show you an example of a dangerous cult. Then I'll show you an example of a peaceful cult. Finally, I'll show you how to belong to a cult and how to get out of one if you really need to. Since the early 1900s, there's been controversy over defining a cult. Before the 1930s, the word cult was used to describe a group of people with a extreme devotion to someone or something. Different cults can be spiritual, self-help, and religious, also political. Most of the time, you can't tell the difference between a cultist and your neighbor because they just want to fit in. Although there have been cults before who have shown signs of extreme law breaking, it wasn't until the 1930s that Christians deemed cults an act of heresy. They claimed that their acts of devotion towards Satan, and they were now deemed Satan cults. Eventually, any group associated with the word cults had to use the term new religious movement to keep from upsetting everyone else that thought they were just plain cruel. What we know of cults has originated from the media and the way that they want us to see things. They have found out that the weirder they make the cults, the more people want to watch. Angela Leach, a countercult socialist who's written books about escaping cults and exit counseling for former members of religious groups, notes that the term brainwashing was used by the countercult movement that was made popular by the Manchurian Candidate, one of the very famous movies about crazy things that cults do and all those weird rituals that they always have. Through the ages, there have been cults that make us question other cults. People's Temple is an example of dangerous cult. It ended with a mass suicide. Reverend Jim Jones started people's cults to help the homeless, jobless, and sick. But later on, he'd forced them to kill congressmen who was trying to investigate abuse claims that were coming about within the cult. After this shooting, Jones believed that he had to terminate the cult. So he told the group that if they were completely devoted to him, they believed in everything he said, they would drink the punch and they would believe that they would go somewhere good and they would follow him into the good place. He ended up killing 913 of his followers, including children, by poisoning the punch. And everyone followed him because that's what you do in a cult. You have a great devotion for your leader. You trust him very much. So you're going to do anything that he says. And the Manson family is another great example of a dangerous cult. They had fewer deaths, but it's just as much example as danger. Charles Manson was the inspiration for the book Helter Skelter. He used false information about the cult to bring others into it. Manson had been rejected by the media, so he sent 4 followers to kill 6 different people who resembled his complete and utter rejection for fame. And these 4 followers had also killed just because they had a great devotion towards this leader that they thought was going to send them to a better place. But some cults can bring a positive retrospect to us as well. The Way International is a Christian cult whose headquarters is right in New Knoxville. Victor Werewolf formed the Way after claiming that he received a message from God. Victor claims that the Way has no other intention but to spread the word of God. The Way International itself quotes that the Way is a worldwide research, teaching, and fellowship ministry. It is designed to teach those how to understand the Bible. But do you look for cults, or do cults come find you? Cults tend to gradually find you without trying. You'll often bring yourself into it. Nick Skinner, former cultist of a cult in Costa Rica, states that people don't tend to go looking for joining a cult. Instead, curious and often idealistic people lead into recruitment. Nick and his wife started out trying to find a place just to live and soon found themselves dressing with a dress code, following a set schedule, and calling their leader the master. Online recruitment even brings you to a cult without having to leave the house. The Church of Satan is an online cult based on self-expression. Their website gives you ways to donate and also how to join it if you want. You pretty much just join by following what they believe and then finding others who believe in the same thing. And you don't have to have one leader. That's their way of showing that you can just join without having to do anything really. You just find a bunch of people who also believe in the same thing as you, and you talk about it. But cults don't usually agree with you leaving, so it may be a lot more complicated than joining it. Cultists are very devoted to their leader and their beliefs, so if it's easy to leave your cult, it's probably not a true one. To have an escape, you need to find someone outside of the cult to help you, or to stay with when you do leave. If you choose to, you can email or call them to tell them that you're leaving, or you could tell someone in person who you trust in that cult to let them know. And if you're afraid that they might come looking for you, just ignore them completely. Once you leave, you don't have to tell them anything. But they don't end up letting go easily. So if you find them trying to harass you or call you constantly, you may want to document what they say and how they do it in case you ever need to take it to court, in case it ever gets too out of hand. You finally just have to move on. There's no other way to get over it other than moving on. And if you stay stuck in the past, you're never going to get over this. Bringing in new information is useful in the decision of joining cults. Cults can be dangerous or peaceful. One cult may be for you while another may not, but you have to be careful about it and do your research. Really do your research. You need to know what you're getting into when you get into these things. You may think you want to be in a cult, but trust me, they may not be all they're cracked up to be. Knowing about cults and how they behave can help you make a better decision on them and inform you of the positive and negative effects that they can have. You can be in a cult. You can be safe about it.